Welcome to the Mental Health and Wellbeing project, supporting transition through the next stage of the lockdown. Everyone has experienced lockdown. For some, it might have been a positive experience, but for many, it won't all have been plain sailing. Differing versions of the homeschooling experience will mean varying levels of support required when transitioning back into school. Children transitioning back into school might bring with them a range of concerns. What factors might influence how children are affected differently by the lockdown and by returning to school?
I think we're all feeling the impact of the current situation, and we know that our children will all have been affected in lots of different ways. Their experiences will all have been very different, just like ours, and will depend on so many different factors. How life has been at home for them during this time will probably be the most significant factor. How the family has coped with the pressures and the strains of everything that's been going on. The child's age and stage will probably be a factor, as well as any additional needs that child may have, as well as how much their routine has been affected during this time. Children will have been exposed to what's happening to varying degrees. Some children may have been very shielded with regard to what's been happening, while others may have been greatly affected by loss or bereavement. As a result, all of our children are returning to our classrooms with a real unique set of needs, which they're bringing back with them and which we need to try to understand and support.
How important is it for all school staff to be aware of just how they're feeling?
We need to take the time to understand that we are the barometer in the classroom. We are the biggest influencer of the emotional temperature. So we need to have some self-awareness. We need to be aware of the emotional layers that we are bringing in to the workplace, bringing into school. How I'm feeling could be different things on different days. How the traffic was this morning, or I spilt my coffee on my trousers, or the kids were arguing before I left the house. All those things can affect us all the time. But in these tricky times, other things are brought to the fore. I could be concerned about my health, about people in my family's health, my partner's job, finances. These are all very real concerns. But sometimes we can be carrying them without realising, and that's when we can respond to others in less positive ways. We need to use the positive coping strategies that work for us, because we need to give the message that we are positive, we feel good, we feel okay, because the children will feel what we feel. We need to be able to reflect on ourselves and how we're feeling, because we're all going to be in a very different space, and we're all going to have demands placed on us that are completely new and different.
How might we best respond to a child whose behaviour is a cause for concern?
We often talk about behaviour as a communication, and when a child is stressed or anxious, it is their behaviour that will often communicate that first. So when we're thinking about how to respond to a child, it's important to think about what they're feeling, what they're wanting, and what they're needing from us. There will be a lot of confused emotions that we're welcoming back into our classrooms. For a long time, children have been told to stay at home, to stay safe, and now they've got to come back to school again. What does that mean? Does that mean they won't be safe? Our children have been exposed to some really difficult realities. When we're thinking about how best to support a child who is exhibiting distressed behaviour, it's really helpful to remember, what would I want someone to do if that was somebody that I cared about? Or what would I like somebody to do if that was me who was in a distressed state? Most of us would want to be treated with empathy, care, and be provided with strategies and reassurance to help us to calm down and avoid an escalation in something that could possibly become unsafe. And so we think about de-escalation approaches that we can adopt. Firstly, just by acknowledging that you can see something's wrong, by offering a space for them to talk and for you to listen. By saying to a child, I can see some things happened, you're effectively saying that you can see something's not okay and you want to understand how you can help. Lots of children will benefit from being distracted by offering some space or some time outside to have a run around. Perhaps some time in a calm space or talking to a trusted adult, and helped to make better choices as a result. Use your knowledge of the young person, what their interests are, what their past experiences have been, and how they've been successful on previous occasions at calming down.
How might the stresses around the lockdown and returning to school affect children?
Our children need to know that it's actually going to be okay. We've got a plan. While things are going to be different, we're going to be there for them and allow them some time to get back to normal or to adjust to the new normal. And for some, that might just take a bit longer, and we'll need to give them that space and that time before they're necessarily ready to learn.
What will our children want most from us when they return?
Our children will want us to be a source of positivity and hope when they return to the classroom, to provide a calm and familiar routine with engaging lessons and activities that will provide much needed opportunity to be distracted from what's going on outside of the classroom. They'll want school to be a place to learn, but to laugh and to belong and to feel hopeful. So it's really important for them to feel that positivity when we go back. And of course, most young people will be wanting to get back to see their friends and their teachers, to play, to socialise, to chat, to reconnect. They will have missed this so much, and we know how important it can be for their well-being and development to be with their friends.
How can we help children work through their concerns about the lockdown and coming back to school?
For some of our children, they'll need us to be the person who helps them understand and process some of their thoughts and worries. In Virginia Ironside's book, The Huge Bag of Worries, the little girl becomes overwhelmed by all of her worries until an old lady comes along to help by unpacking her worries with her and opening them up to the light of day. Whilst it's a story for younger children, the concept of having somebody else to help you sort and organise your worries and anxieties can be helpful for all.
How might the model of the cycle of influence be useful when thinking about supporting our children when they return?
It's a really helpful model to look at when considering how best to support our children. We know that our experiences directly impact on how we feel, and it's our feelings that drive our behaviour, and it's our behaviour that elicits responses in others, and these responses have a direct effect again on our experiences, and so the cycle continues. What's important to understand here is that by changing one aspect of this cycle, we impact on all of the others. So a positive intervention at any point in the cycle will hopefully have a positive outcome on all of the other aspects. But similarly, something negative during the cycle will have a negative knock-on. So if a child is experiencing feelings of frustration or anxiety, we may see an increase in distressed behaviour. By responding to the behaviour in an empathetic and supportive way, and in a way that we know works for that young person, that uses strategies to de-escalate and calm the situation, we are hopefully doing two things. Firstly, we are hopefully providing some support to calm and de-stress the young person, but also we're providing the young person with a new experience that says, when I'm finding things difficult, the adults have got me, they understand what I need. They are providing me with clear and supportive boundaries that will influence the rest of the cycle.
How might the strangeness of social distancing affect our children? And is there anything we can do to lessen the impact?
Yes, lots of us are really struggling right now about the thought of a socially distanced school environment. How is it practically going to be applied? What will the impact be on the children's mental health and well-being? Those children in early years I think are going to especially struggle with staying away from their friends and not being close to their teachers. They won't understand if we're not our usual warm and hand-holding self. And rejecting that physical contact, I think, will be really upsetting and confusing for some of the younger children. So we'll have to be mindful of how we explain all about this new normal and be really consistent with the children about what is and isn't okay. I know from lots of people that I've spoken to that the concept of social distancing is in complete conflict with everything we know about how children learn and play and understand school. A huge part of human communication and connection relies on being physically close to somebody. And we're going to lose some of this. The high fives, the handshakes, hand on the shoulder, hugs, and even the more subtle eye contact and body language signals that are easier to read just by being closer. We're going to miss some of this, and we need to find different ways of connecting and showing people that we really are listening and engaging with them.
So we can begin to think in more detail about how to support our school community through this tricky transition. We're now going to split into our role groups. See the link for the presentation in the description below this video.